Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Villa No Filler. Please remember to like and subscribe. Comment down below, subscribe, and do all those good things. Well, it's very, very sunny for the first time in my life in the UK. There's actual blue sky. There's sunshine. So, of course, on this fateful day, a day which was long prophesized over the last 1,000 years, that finally the clouds would part and we would see this thing called a sun. Finally, that day has come after enduring literally a year and a half under dark clouds in this country, God-forsaken country. Finally, the sun has arrived. And what am I doing when that sun is out? Am I out walking around? Am I getting sunburn? Am I very pale Irish skin? Hell no. I'm sitting here talking about Super Aston Villa. Such are the sacrifices I make in my ultimately super fulfilling life. So, well, what's going on in Villa? Well, every day there's something going on in Villa, isn't there? You walk. It's like walking down Oxford Street in London. There's people everywhere. You're bumping into people. It's just non-stop action. And today, Jaden Philogene has officially rejoined Aston Villa FC for a fee in the region of £13.5 million. Getting that 30% discount in. Well done, Villa. Bloody hell, it's like we're going down to the supermarket and we've got our Tesco club card. Hull City and Ipswich Town, Ipswich Town and Everton had to go in there, go for that 18 million quid, but we racked up the points on the club card and managed to get that discount. Well done, Monchi and the team. 18 million quid, 13 million that we're paying, 30 million over 5 years, if that's the length of his contract. Ultimately, it's nothing in Premier League football terms. And, it just shows the club's smartly run. A year ago, I thought 5 million quid sounded a bit weird. I couldn't believe it, really, for a player who clearly in pre-season was very much backed by Emery. Thought he'd have some playing time. But, I talked about it at length anyway in my previous episode. So go and check that out. But yes, I think ultimately, just too long, don't read. I think Philogene comes in with a kind of unique, game-changing skill set that is matched by players like Leon Bailey, Emi Buendia, and Samuel Eiling Jr. Last season, we were heavily reliant upon Leon Bailey to be that X-factor player. I think now we have a lot of competition for a kind of X-factor player in those four I just mentioned. And also, whilst Philogene can come in and play on the right, as a right footer, Bailey's a left footer who cuts in. Philogene can do the opposite on the left-hand side, so he can cut inside on his right. And that means that ultimately Philogene, Eiling Jr., Buendia, and Bailey, they offer different options, don't they? They're all X-factor players. If you're a tired defender and you see any of that combination of those four players coming on the pitch, you're probably thinking, oh, for God's sake, you're just doing this. Get the stretcher out. Get the stretcher. You're rolling your hands around. I can hear sirens out there. You're probably calling for an ambulance. Just get me out of here. I'm a celebrity. I'm a footballer. Get me out of here when you see those four. Because, again, Philogene can also go and stay out left, cling to the left-hand side. And therefore, let's say if Ian Maatsen, dare I say it, maybe we invert our fullbacks for the first time ever and have Maatsen come in as an option. It's there. We can do it if we want. And Philogene or Eiling Jr. stick out into the left-hand touchline. That option's there. Ultimately, I think Philogene most likely will be there on the right-hand side working with Leon Bailey. Bailey will play some minutes. Philogene will play other minutes. Eiling Jr. will probably be a bit more the left-hand side. Him and Jacob Ramsey on the left and Buendia as well. But also Buendia can also be a second striker. The options are there. We've got a few more options than we did last season. Particularly for that X factor player. I'm not saying I think the squad immediately is stronger than what it was. I think losing Douglas Luiz and now it looks like Moussa Diaby and potentially John Duran, that doesn't make your squad stronger. You're losing some clutch players who did big things. And I think Douglas Luiz is the one major loss as well that I think we're going to take time to adapt to. But that is what happens in football. Where the club where we are at the moment with PSR as well, we're going to have to make sales. And sometimes, I don't want to say you need to take a step back to progress, but sometimes you need to sell key players at the right time to then progress, maybe not immediately, but at a later stage. I do think a couple of the signings we've made, Baranacher, I'm excited to see how he develops. A couple of these players I think can improve as quickly, but you got to bear in mind as well, we've got to be patient that there are going to be some teething issues here. Probably there might not be, hopefully not, but there might be when you do lose players of kind of the level of a Douglas Luiz in particular and Moussa Diaby. Now, it's been reported today. It's been rumbling on a while now, but looks like it's happening. Various sources are saying it. Fabrizio Romano himself has said it. Aston Villa have agreed a fee that's beyond the 55 million euros that's been reported elsewhere with Al-Ittihad in Saudi Arabia, and that 55 million euros that translates to, let me just double confirm that, 46 million pounds rounded up. So according to the Athletic, we bought Moussa Diaby for between 34 to 35 million quid plus add-ons. I saw last year, we all saw 50 million pound fees going around, but the Athletic have always stuck to that line of 34, 35 million pounds plus add-ons. So if you were to sell him for, let's say, I think it's going to be more than 55 million euros. So as Fabrizio Romano has said, it's in excess of that. So let's round that up to, let's say we sell him for 50 million. And elsewhere, I have seen that Villa have agreed a $65 million US dollar fee. So we go to pounds, that's 50 million pounds. So I don't know what the add-ons are we've paid. You have to assume we've paid something getting Champions League and the sheer quantity of games he played for Villa last season. So we got to take it that we've probably made a sort of 10, 15 million pound profit on him. The salary, the wages are going as well. Look, we don't know the official fee yet. It might well turn out that it's different. I'm reticent to speculate on it because without all the information, I don't want to just be somebody who's out there contributing to various hot air and people pretending they know what the hell they're talking about and putting out, it's important in today's society that we value good journalism and people who are looking for the truth on things. And so, but I think it's fair to assume that Aston Villa will be making a decent profit, at least on Moussa Diaby, and Aston Villa should make a decent profit on him because this is a star signing for the Saudi Arabian League. As I said the other day, it's a huge signing for Al-Ittihad. This is a player who's not even at his peak yet. He's a French international. And he was a key player in Aston Villa getting into the Champions League last season. They're signing a Champions League player for a league that ultimately isn't particularly appealing for, most players, and quite frankly, doesn't really have the popularity of other leagues. It's as simple as that. So obviously they're trying to work their way up in the Saudi Pro League. Maybe one day there will be a league that people watch en masse. I don't think I will, but look, it's last season. He played 38 games in the Premier League. Played every single Premier League game, 6 goals. All in all, he played 54 games, 10 goals, multiple assists. He was one of our key goals and assist maker. It's hard to replace that. That's a big loss. Moussa Diaby, I couldn't help but think that there was a bit of a Leon Bailey there. And that, his first season was better than Leon Bailey's first 2 seasons. I don't think any of us foresaw that Leon Bailey would reach the heights. God, there's so many sirens outside. I don't think any of us foresaw that Leon Bailey would reach the heights that he did last season. And that probably, as was said in a comment the other day on the YouTube channel, that probably reflected that Diaby came in and ultimately wasn't really going to break into the right-hand side of the pitch because Bailey's just so good. How do you drop the guy? He's like one of the best attacking footballers in world football last season. And I think with Diaby, is his natural position a second striker? I think he can get even better there. I think he did a solid, very more than solid job there last season for Villa. But I think you could argue that second striker is not his best role. Right wing is his best role. And I dare say Al-Ittihad, with a big salary he'll get, maybe he'll play out on the right more so than he would for Aston Villa next season. And ultimately, Villa get big profit for him. Big wages are probably off the books. And knowing Aston Villa or knowing Monchi and Unai Emery, might just go and sign a player that's not as expensive and maybe even suits that second striker role a bit better. And but again, you do have to think whoever it is we get into that position, there is going to be an adaptation process, and we're losing a year of adaptation for Moussa Diaby, and you have to assume he would have improved next season. So that look, it's a big loss. I wish him well. I think he's been I think he did very well for us and was a big part in Aston Villa getting into the Champions League. I think at times you do wonder if Unai Emery perhaps had the full faith in him as a second striker because there were games where he'd go a bit out of it. He wouldn't really, it'd be hard to see him. He'd come off after 60 minutes, 70 minutes. And that started to happen quite regularly in the second half of the season. And he started coming on off the bench as well. Um, but look at what he did against Liverpool when he came on. He was just huge factor in that 3-3 turnaround, with 3-1 down, put it back to 3-3. He was a big part of that turnaround. So we're losing a player that we've invested a heavy amount of growth and Unai Emery's coaching in. So again, there's a potential we bring a player in, but we're going to have to think that there's going to have to be another season of adaptation for them, as there will be for a few of these players we brought in who are all very young. And you have to think a lot of these young players, they're not all going to be fantastic all the time. They're going to go through dips here and there. Even Morgan Rogers himself, you have to assume that might happen to him. Ireland Jr., Jaden Philogene, Enzo Baranachea, all these young guys, you've got to assume that it's not going to be plain sailing all the time. But I think as a fan base, I think we're one of the more patient fan bases. I think we're hopefully, we don't get on the back of players if they go through a bit of a lull, because as we've seen with Leon Bailey, these players, they're playing at the top level for a reason, because they're top level players. And we've just got to be patient with them if they don't quite hit their level straight away. But I wish Moussa Diaby well. It's not confirmed yet that he's going to Saudi, but look, it looks pretty 99% close, doesn't it? But otherwise, who could go into that second striker role? Well, Yuri Tielemans did all right there, didn't he? Think about the Sheffield United away game, 5-0 game I was at. He was fantastic there. Various games he played really well. He had a lovely link up as well with Leon Bailey. They have a really lovely natural connection together. But I think Morgan Rogers, I think against Warsaw, we saw signs that man is going to play further forward this season than the left midfield role. I think Jacob Ramsey and I think Samuel Ireland Jr. are probably going to fit into that left midfield role, and Jaden Philogene himself as well. I wouldn't say Morgan Rogers won't play that. I think he will. But I think what we saw against Warsaw was a player who's very, very confident at the moment, and a player who, in that second striker role, he can score from distance. His first goal against Brentford for Aston Villa in that 3-3 draw was a fantastic finish from distance in that exact position you think a second striker is going to be. He's got all the attributes to play further forward. I've said it before, repeat it, potentially the heir to Watkins as a full-on striker. But if he, works his way further forward up the pitch, he goes from the left midfield into that second striker role. So then you've got, let's say, Ollie Watkins ahead of him, Morgan Rogers there, lovely link-up play with a Leon Bailey out on the right, or a Jaden Philogene maybe. And what Rogers has, height. He's good with his back to goal. He's got lovely link-up play. You can see he's a good passer of the ball. There's so many attributes to his game. But one of the main things as well, though, is that finishing. That Chelsea goal he scored long distance outside the area. The Brentford goal, fantastic, quick touches, great finish. And then the other goal he scored, I forget who it was against now, Bournemouth, I think. Again, further forward up the pitch, great finish. And the Warsaw goal you saw as well, got into a one-on-one position, playing as a second striker role, and so many players, I did this my whole life, you hit it straight into the keeper. Why? Why do we all do it? Morgan Rogers doesn't. Morgan Rogers timed it perfectly, placed it past him. And I know it's pre-season, it means nothing against Warsaw, but ultimately, it's still a one-on-one. You still got to finish it, and he did. So I think he has the dynamism and the attributes to be an effective second striker, and maybe even one day playing in that Ollie Watkins role. Who knows? So, but will we replace Diaby? Well, we've got a very full squad, so we're going to have to make some sales. I do think we got to make another signing in there. And I think if Diaby was a winger ultimately playing as a second striker and did a very creditable job adapting to a role, it was very difficult in his first season to do that. And I remember at Wolves, he always had a big, tall defender following him. That was constantly happening to him as the season progressed. Big strikers following him everywhere. And he had to try and find space. And it was difficult to do that when you just got a player bloody always tracking you. And Diaby's strengths were turning and running into that space, which he wasn't always getting with his back to goal. I think if we were to sign a player to play that second striker role who's a different profile, if I think that Rodgers and Tielemans might fit into that second striker role as the season goes, although I think Tielemans might go back into the Luiz role. Although that's not said Che might not go in if he's a bit, even though he's a bit more defensive minded than Luiz is. Second striker. I just think of someone who's a bit more low center of gravity. Buendia can do it. Somebody good with their back to goal, tight space, can beat a man with their turn. Would an Alex Baena fit in somewhere like that? Gets assists, but it's a difficult role to fill that. But I think maybe we don't replace Diaby immediately. But if Duran goes, we definitely have to get somebody else up there. Maximilian Bayer, the German striker. I interviewed Max Merrill about from DW Sports a few weeks ago. Could he be one? Fits the age profile. He's young, up and coming. 16 goals in the Bundesliga last season for Hoffenheim. Though Max Merrill did warn that Maximilian Bayer needs another year, really, probably in the Bundesliga. That's not to say he couldn't come into the Premier League and do a job as a kind of backup striker, fitting into that kind of Duran role. But I think if Duran and Diaby go, we do need to get somebody else up there. And particularly, let's say, God forbid, touch wood, Watkins ever gets injured, we really like that, aren't we, up front? So that's an area I think we need to target. I still want a big, bastard, horrible centre half, who wins headers and does all those kind of things. I have seen Aston Villa linked with an Argentinian goalkeeper from Belgrano, Matthias forgotten his name, Matthias Danieli, that's it. Now, Belgrano. Belgrano were a club in Argentina that relegated River Plate 10 years ago in a playoff. And I only know that because River Plate getting relegated was like Manchester United or Real Madrid going down. It was such a shock. And I remember watching that and the noise levels, my God. But Daniele, again, he's young, 20 years of age, 21, targeting young players with high resale value. And if they don't work out, yeah, you're not losing a lot of money because it's not that much money, is it? For a Premier League club. I think Villa need a backup for I'm not sure about Olsen. Gauchi, will see how he develops. Made his debut against Warsaw, nice stuff. I have obvious Australian bias with my fiance being from Australia. Hello to all the Aussies who listen and watch this. She's from Queensland, Australia. I love Queensland, mate. Top place. She's from Brisbane. Noosa, one of my favourite places in the world. Gold Coast, hilarious place. Love it. Brilliant night out there. Love it. Anyway, what am I talking about? But yes, if Aston Villa sign another Argentinian, we turn into Argent Villa FC. The University, Argent Villa, Dibu Martinez, Emi Buendia, Enzo Barrenetxea, and potentially another one in Matias Daniele, and who knows, Matias Sule as well. Juventus, I've seen a few people want to see him at Villa Park. Anyway, I've done enough rambling. I've done enough football ramble here. Great podcast. God, one of my best friends in life is on that podcast. Anyway, let me know what you think. Comment down below. Please give us those 5-star reviews. It helps us so much. I wish Moussa Diaby well if he does indeed get that confirmed. And I'm delighted to see Jaden Philogene officially back at Aston Villa Football Club up the mighty Villa.